The morning sun cast long shadows across the military compound as Staff Sergeant Maria Santos adjusted her rifle scope for the 100th time. The weight of the Barrett M82 felt familiar in her hands, like an old friend she could trust with her life. Around her, the other snipers in the elite unit prepared their equipment with the same methodical precision that had kept them alive through countless missions. Maria had earned her place in this unit the hard way. Growing up in a small town in Texas, she learned to shoot with her grandfather's old hunting rifle when she was barely tall enough to hold it properly. Her father had been a Marine, killed in action when she was 12. That loss shaped everything that came after. When she enlisted at 18, Maria faced the same skepticism that greeted most women trying to enter combat roles. The drill sergeants pushed harder, the physical tests seemed more demanding, and every mistake was magnified. But Maria had something that couldn't be taught, an almost supernatural ability to remain invisible when it mattered most. During basic training, her instructors noticed something unusual about her performance during stealth exercises. While other recruits stumbled through the woods, making noise that could wake the dead, Maria moved like smoke through the trees. She could disappear in plain sight, becoming one with whatever environment surrounded her. Her fellow soldiers started calling her Ghost during training exercises. The nickname stuck through advanced infantry school, sniper training, and her first deployment. Maria didn't mind it. In fact, she preferred being underestimated. It gave her an advantage that proved invaluable in the field. Her first combat deployment took her to Afghanistan, where the mountains provided perfect sniper positions for someone with her skills. The enemy learned to fear the invisible American who could strike from impossible distances without ever being seen. Village elders spoke in whispers about the phantom soldier who protected their communities from Taliban fighters. During one particularly dangerous mission, Maria's squad was tasked with eliminating a high-value target who had been coordinating attacks against coalition forces. The target was holed up in a compound surrounded by heavily armed guards. Traditional assault tactics would have resulted in massive casualties on both sides. Maria studied the compound for 3 days, learning the patterns of the guards, identifying weak points in their security, and calculating wind patterns that would affect her shots. On the 4th night, she moved into position 2 kilometers away from the target building. What happened next became legend among the special operations community. In the span of 15 minutes, Maria eliminated 7 enemy combatants with surgical precision, including the high-value target, without alerting the remaining guards to her presence. By the time they realized what was happening, she had vanished into the night like smoke. The mission report that reached higher command was so extraordinary that several generals questioned its accuracy. How could one sniper neutralize multiple targets at that distance without being detected? The answer lay in Maria's unique combination of technical skill and an almost mystical ability to blend into her surroundings. Word of her capabilities spread through military channels. Special operations commanders began requesting her specifically for their most sensitive missions. Maria's reputation grew with each successful operation, but she remained humble about her abilities. She understood that her skills came with tremendous responsibility. Between deployments, Maria continued to train relentlessly. She studied advanced camouflage techniques, practiced meditation to improve her mental discipline, and worked with equipment specialists to modify her gear for maximum stealth capability. Her rifle became an extension of herself, customized with specialized suppressors and optics that enhanced her natural abilities. The transformation from small-town Texas girl to elite military operator hadn't been easy. Maria sacrificed normal relationships and a conventional life for her dedication to military excellence. She missed family gatherings, lost touch with childhood friends, and watched from afar as her high school classmates got married and started families. But Maria found purpose in her service. Every successful mission meant lives saved, terrorist plots disrupted, and communities protected from violence. She understood that her unusual talents came with an obligation to use them for the greater good, no matter the personal cost. As her second deployment ended, Maria's commanding officers recommended her for promotion and transfer to an even more elite unit. The selection process would be brutal, testing not just her marksmanship skills, but her ability to operate independently in hostile territory for extended periods. Maria accepted the challenge without hesitation. She had proven herself capable of extraordinary things, but she knew the most demanding tests still lay ahead. The military was offering her the chance to serve at the highest levels of special operations, where the missions were more dangerous but also more crucial to national security. The training for her new assignment took place at a classified facility where the best snipers from all branches of the military came to push the boundaries of what was possible. Maria found herself competing against operators with decades of experience and reputations that preceded them into every room. During the initial assessment, instructors created scenarios designed to test every aspect of a sniper's capabilities. Candidates had to demonstrate accuracy at extreme ranges, maintain concealment while under surveillance, and complete complex missions with minimal support. Many candidates who had excelled in their previous units found themselves struggling to meet the new standards. Maria approached each challenge with the same methodical preparation that had served her well in combat. She studied her competition, identified their strengths and weaknesses, and developed strategies that played to her unique advantages. While other candidates relied on brute force or traditional techniques, Maria found creative solutions that often surprised even the instructors. The final test required candidates to infiltrate a mock enemy compound, eliminate multiple targets, and extract without detection. The exercise was conducted in a realistic urban environment with role players acting as civilian bystanders and enemy forces. Success required not just marksmanship skills, but tactical intelligence and split-second decision-making. Maria spent hours reconnaissance the target area before the exercise began. She identified entry and exit routes, calculated sight lines for her shots, and developed contingency plans for various scenarios. When the test began, she moved through the urban environment like a shadow, invisible to both enemy role players and the instructors monitoring the exercise. Her performance during the final test exceeded all expectations. Maria eliminated her targets with precision that impressed even the most experienced instructors. But what really set her apart was how she accomplished the mission. Security cameras captured glimpses of movement, but never a clear image of her location. Enemy role players reported feeling watched, but couldn't identify where the threat was coming from. When the exercise concluded, Maria had achieved something unprecedented in the program's history. She had completed every objective without being detected by any of the multiple surveillance systems monitoring the exercise. The instructors reviewing the footage struggled to track her movements, even when they knew exactly where she had been. When the general requested her call sign, she answered Phantom. Silence followed. The selection results were announced on a Friday morning in the sterile briefing room, where candidates had spent weeks preparing for their new assignments. Maria sat in the back row, her expression calm despite the nervous energy radiating from the other hopefuls. She had learned long ago not to show emotion until she knew the outcome. Colonel Davidson, the program director, read through the names of those who had earned positions in various special operations units. Each name was followed by their new assignment and call sign. Maria listened as her fellow candidates received their placements, noting that several highly qualified operators had been assigned to support roles rather than frontline positions. When Colonel Davidson reached the end of his list, Maria noticed her name hadn't been called. She felt a familiar knot forming in her stomach, the same feeling she'd experienced as a child when picked last for team sports. Perhaps her unconventional approach had been too different from what the instructors expected. Staff Sergeant Santos. Colonel Davidson's voice cut through her thoughts. Please remain after dismissal. The rest of you, congratulations on your new assignments. Report to your unit commanders Monday morning. Maria watched as her fellow soldiers filed out of the briefing room, some offering encouraging smiles, while others seemed relieved they wouldn't be competing against her in their new units. The silence that followed felt heavy, filled with possibilities both good and bad. Colonel Davidson waited until the door closed before approaching Maria's seat. His expression was unreadable, a skill perfected through decades of delivering news that could change lives forever. He placed a classified folder on the table between them and sat down. "Sergeant Santos, your performance during selection exceeded our metrics in ways we didn't think were possible," he began. "The review board has been debating your assignment for the past week, not because you're unqualified, but because you're overqualified for most positions in special operations." Maria maintained her composure while processing this unexpected development. She had prepared for failure and success, but not for being too good at what she did. The irony wasn't lost on her that excellence could be as problematic as mediocrity in the military bureaucracy. "Your test scores and field performance indicate capabilities that fall outside normal operational parameters," Colonel Davidson continued. "The instructors monitoring your final exercise had to review the footage multiple times to confirm you were actually present during certain phases. That level of stealth capability is unprecedented." He opened the classified folder and removed a single document with multiple official seals. The letterhead indicated it had come from the highest levels of military command, the kind of orders that bypassed normal chains of authority and opened doors to missions that officially never happened. "You're being assigned to a unit that doesn't appear on any organizational chart," Colonel Davidson explained. "Your new commander will brief you on the specific requirements, but I can tell you that your unique skills have attracted attention at levels far above my authority. This assignment will require sacrifices that go beyond normal military service." Maria accepted the orders without reading them immediately. She understood that some information was too sensitive to review in standard briefing rooms, even classified ones. The fact that Colonel Davidson seemed uncomfortable with the assignment told her everything she needed to know about its significance. Her new orders directed her to report to a facility she'd never heard of, located in a part of the country known more for desert training than elite military operations. The reporting date gave her exactly 72 hours to complete her transfer, barely enough time to collect her personal effects and travel to the new location. The journey to her new assignment took Maria through increasingly remote terrain until she reached a checkpoint that didn't appear on any public maps. Military police examined her orders with the thoroughness of personnel protecting something truly important. After multiple security screenings, she was escorted to a complex hidden within what appeared to be an ordinary desert training facility. The briefing room where Maria waited for her new commander looked like something from a spy movie. The walls were lined with monitors displaying satellite feeds from around the world, and the communications equipment was more advanced than anything she'd seen in traditional military facilities. Clearly, this unit operated with resources and authority far beyond conventional forces. Major Rebecca Chun entered the briefing room with the confident bearing of an officer accustomed to commanding elite personnel. Her uniform lacked the usual unit patches and identifying marks that indicated normal military affiliation. Instead, she wore a simple black insignia that Maria didn't recognize. "Staff Sergeant Santos, welcome to Task Force Shadow." Major Chun began without preamble. "Your new unit doesn't officially exist, and the missions you'll undertake will never be acknowledged by any government agency. Are you prepared for that level of commitment?" Maria had expected her new assignment to be challenging, but the implications of operating in complete secrecy added layers of complexity she hadn't anticipated. She would be cutting ties with everything that connected her to the conventional military, entering a world where success and failure were measured differently. "The selection process you just completed was actually a preliminary screening," Major Chun continued. "Your real training begins now, and it will test capabilities you don't know you possess. We've identified individuals with exceptional talents, but exceptional talent alone isn't sufficient for our requirements." The orientation process for Task Force Shadow lasted 6 months and covered skills that weren't taught in any conventional military school. Maria learned advanced surveillance techniques, studied psychological manipulation methods, and trained with weapon systems that officially didn't exist. Each day brought new challenges designed to push her abilities beyond their apparent limits. Her fellow team members came from various military backgrounds, but they all shared one characteristic. They possessed abilities that seemed to defy normal human limitations. Some had almost supernatural situational awareness. Others could process tactical information with computer-like speed, and a few demonstrated physical capabilities that bordered on the impossible. Maria's invisibility skills, which had seemed remarkable in conventional units, fit naturally within Task Force Shadow's unusual roster. Here, exceptional wasn't unusual, it was the minimum standard for entry. The training focused on enhancing these natural gifts while developing new capabilities that complemented existing strengths. The first operational mission came after Maria had spent 8 months with Task Force Shadow. The target was a terrorist cell operating in a politically sensitive region where conventional military intervention wasn't possible. The mission required eliminating key leadership while making their deaths appear accidental or the result of internal conflicts. Maria's role involved infiltrating the terrorist compound and gathering intelligence while her teammates created diversions and established extraction routes. The operation required a level of precision and coordination that exceeded anything she had experienced in conventional military service. The mission briefing took place in a secure facility where holographic displays showed the target area in 3 dimensions. Intelligence analysts had constructed detailed profiles of every individual in the terrorist cell, including their daily routines, personal relationships, and psychological vulnerabilities. This level of information gathering was far beyond what traditional military units could access. Maria studied the compound layout until she could navigate it blindfolded. She memorized the faces and habits of everyone living there, learning which individuals posed the greatest threats and which could be used to advantage during the operation. The preparation was exhaustive, covering contingencies that conventional planning wouldn't consider. When the mission launched, Maria's infiltration proceeded exactly as planned. She moved through the terrorist compound like a ghost, gathering intelligence and positioning herself for the primary objectives. Her teammates executed their supporting roles with the same precision, creating exactly the right conditions for success. The operation concluded without anyone in the terrorist cell realizing they had been infiltrated. The targeted leaders died in what appeared to be accidental circumstances, and the intelligence gathered provided information that prevented several planned attacks against civilian targets. Task Force Shadow had achieved its objectives while maintaining complete deniability. Following the mission's success, Maria received her first commendation in Task Force Shadow. Unlike traditional military decorations, this recognition came without ceremony or public acknowledgement. Excellence in this unit was measured by results achieved and secrets maintained, not by publicity or career advancement in conventional terms. When the general requested her call sign, she answered Phantom. Silence followed 3 years into her service with Task Force Shadow. Maria had become something beyond what she ever imagined possible during her early military training. Her abilities had been refined through countless missions in hostile territories where failure meant death, and success meant no one would ever know what happened. She had learned to move through the world like a living shadow. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Maria was reviewing intelligence reports in the secure facility's briefing room. Major Chen appeared in the doorway with an expression that indicated something significant was developing. In Task Force Shadow, urgent missions often arrived with little warning and maximum consequences. Sergeant Santos, you're needed in Washington immediately, Major Chen announced. A situation has developed that requires your specific capabilities. Transportation is waiting, and you'll be briefed during the flight. Pack light. This operation may extend for several weeks. The flight to Washington took place aboard a military aircraft that had been modified for secure communications and classified briefings. During the journey, Maria learned that a high-ranking intelligence officer had gone missing while investigating a potential security breach that threatened ongoing operations across multiple theaters. The missing officer, Commander Patricia Hoffman, had been tracking suspicious activities that suggested someone within the intelligence community was providing classified information to hostile foreign agents. Her investigation had been conducted with extreme secrecy, but she had disappeared before completing her work or identifying the source of the security breach. Traditional search and rescue operations couldn't be used because revealing Commander Hoffman's mission would compromise the very investigation she had been conducting. The operation required someone who could investigate the disappearance while maintaining complete secrecy about the underlying security concerns. Maria's mission was to locate Commander Hoffman, determine what had happened to her investigation, and either complete her work or recover the intelligence she had gathered. The assignment required infiltrating civilian and military facilities in the Washington area without attracting attention from the very people who might be responsible for the security breach. The investigation began with Maria establishing a cover identity as a government contractor working on routine security assessments. This provided her with legitimate access to many of the facilities Commander Hoffman had been investigating while giving her a reasonable explanation for asking detailed questions about security procedures. Commander Hoffman's investigation had focused on a pattern of classified information that had been accessed without proper authorization. The breaches were sophisticated, suggesting someone with intimate knowledge of security protocols was involved. However, the violations were subtle enough that they hadn't triggered automated detection systems. Maria spent 2 weeks retracing Commander Hoffman's steps, interviewing people who had spoken with her, and reviewing the same file she had accessed. The pattern that emerged was disturbing. Someone with very high-level access was systematically gathering intelligence about ongoing operations and personnel assignments. The breakthrough came when Maria discovered that Commander Hoffman had been investigating a series of seemingly routine personnel transfers that had occurred over the previous 6 months. Several key intelligence analysts had been reassigned to new positions that gave them access to different types of classified information. What made these transfers suspicious was their timing. Each had occurred shortly before major intelligence operations in the regions those analysts specialized in. The pattern suggested someone was positioning personnel to gather specific types of classified information for unauthorized purposes. Maria's investigation revealed that the personnel transfers had been authorized by Deputy Director Martin Walsh, a senior intelligence official with decades of experience and an impeccable reputation. Commander Hoffman's final notes indicated she had arranged to meet with Walsh to discuss her concerns about the pattern she had identified. The meeting with Deputy Director Walsh had been scheduled for the evening Commander Hoffman disappeared. Security footage from the intelligence complex showed her entering the building for the meeting, but she was never seen leaving. Walsh reported that the meeting had been canceled due to an emergency, but no record of that cancellation existed. Maria realized she was investigating someone with the authority and access to cover up almost any activity within the intelligence community. Walsh's position gave him the ability to manipulate records, authorize transfers, and access virtually any classified information he wanted. If he was responsible for Commander Hoffman's disappearance, he would have numerous resources for concealing evidence. The investigation required extreme caution because Walsh's position meant he likely had surveillance capabilities that could detect normal investigative activities. Maria had to gather evidence while avoiding detection by someone who understood intelligence tradecraft as well as she did. Using her unique stealth abilities, Maria conducted surveillance on Walsh's activities without triggering the security measures he would have established to detect conventional investigation techniques. She observed his meetings, monitored his communications, and tracked his movements while remaining completely invisible to his counter-surveillance efforts. What Maria discovered was a sophisticated operation that had been running for over 2 years. Walsh had been systematically gathering classified information about American operations and selling it to foreign intelligence services. The personnel transfers he had authorized were designed to give him access to intelligence about specific operations that his foreign contacts wanted to purchase. Commander Hoffman had unknowingly stumbled onto Walsh's operation while investigating what she thought was a routine security breach. Her investigation had brought her close enough to discovering the truth that Walsh felt compelled to eliminate her rather than risk exposure of his activities. Maria's surveillance revealed that Walsh was planning to complete one final intelligence transfer before disappearing from his position. The classified information he intended to sell included details about ongoing operations that would put numerous American personnel at risk if it fell into enemy hands. The evidence Maria had gathered was sufficient to prove Walsh's guilt, but arresting him through normal channels would alert his foreign contacts and compromise ongoing operations. Task Force Shadow's leadership decided that the situation required a more direct solution that would eliminate the threat while maintaining secrecy about the investigation. Maria's final mission regarding the Walsh situation was to prevent the intelligence transfer while making his death appear to be the result of natural causes. The operation required infiltrating a secure facility where Walsh was meeting with his foreign contacts and eliminating him without alerting the other participants to what had happened. The mission took place at an exclusive private club in downtown Washington where Walsh regularly met with contacts under the cover of social gatherings. Maria infiltrated the facility during a busy evening when multiple events were taking place simultaneously, providing her with cover for her movements. Using techniques she had perfected during her years with Task Force Shadow, Maria eliminated Walsh in a way that appeared to be a heart attack brought on by the stress of his clandestine activities. The foreign intelligence operatives at the meeting assumed their contact had suffered a medical emergency and left without receiving the classified information they had come to purchase. The investigation into Walsh's death concluded that he had died for natural causes, and the missing Commander Hoffman was presumed to have been killed by foreign agents who had discovered her investigation. The true details of the operation remained classified at levels that ensured only a handful of people would ever know what really happened. For Maria, the Washington assignment represented a turning point in her understanding of the world in which she operated. She had uncovered corruption at the highest levels of the intelligence community and eliminated a threat that could have compromised national security for years. However, the mission had also shown her how easily the truth could be manipulated when necessary to protect larger interests. When the general requested her call sign, she answered Phantom. Silence followed. The years following the Washington operation established Maria as one of Task Force Shadow's most valuable assets. Her success rate on impossible missions had attracted attention from intelligence officials and military commanders who needed problems solved with absolute discretion. Her reputation within the classified community was built on results that officially never happened. Maria's abilities had evolved far beyond what anyone had anticipated when she first demonstrated her natural stealth capabilities. Years of specialized training and real-world application had turned her into something approaching a living ghost, capable of moving through hostile environments without leaving any trace of her presence. The psychological toll of operating in complete secrecy was something Task Force Shadow took seriously. Regular psychological evaluations ensured that personnel could handle the stress of never receiving public recognition for their accomplishments while carrying the weight of missions that could affect global security. Maria found her purpose in the knowledge that her work prevented catastrophes that would never make headlines. Terrorist attacks that didn't happen, assassination attempts that failed, and intelligence operations that protected American interests around the world. All of these successes depended on people like her who operated in the shadows. The mission that would define the rest of her career began with a briefing that took place in the most secure facility Task Force Shadow had ever used. The operation required eliminating a terrorist leader who had been orchestrating attacks against civilian targets while using his position as a diplomat to avoid conventional military action. General Harrison Caldwell, the overall commander of Special Operations, had personally requested Maria for this assignment. The target's diplomatic immunity and the political sensitivity of his location made traditional assassination techniques impossible to use without creating international incidents that could destabilize entire regions. The briefing took place in a conference room where holographic displays showed the target area with detail that seemed impossible to achieve. Every building, every person, and every security measure had been mapped and analyzed by intelligence teams working around the clock to prepare for the operation. This target has been responsible for coordinating attacks that have killed hundreds of civilians, General Caldwell explained to the assembled team. His diplomatic status makes him untouchable through conventional means, but his activities represent a clear and present danger to American interests and innocent lives. Maria studied the intelligence reports while General Caldwell outlined the operation's objectives. The target, Ambassador Khalil Rahman, operated from a heavily guarded diplomatic compound in a country where American military presence was limited by political agreements and international law. Rahman's terrorist activities were conducted through a network of operatives who received funding and coordination through diplomatic channels that couldn't be monitored by conventional intelligence gathering. He had managed to remain beyond the reach of justice while orchestrating increasingly sophisticated attacks against civilian targets. The operation required Maria to infiltrate the diplomatic compound, eliminate Rahman in a way that couldn't be traced to American involvement, and extract without leaving evidence that could compromise relations with allied nations. The mission combined the highest levels of technical difficulty with extreme political sensitivity. Preparation for the operation took 3 months and involved creating a completely fictional identity that would provide Maria with legitimate access to the diplomatic community where Rahman operated. She became Elena Vasquez, a cultural attaché working for an international art foundation with connections to various diplomatic missions. The cover identity required Maria to master skills completely unrelated to her military training. She studied art history, learned the social protocols of diplomatic society, and developed expertise in cultural preservation that made her presence at diplomatic events seem natural and unremarkable. The depth of preparation exceeded anything Maria had experienced in previous missions. Intelligence teams created years of fictional history for Elena Vasquez, including educational records, work history, and personal relationships that would withstand scrutiny from professional intelligence services. Maria's training for the Elena Vasquez identity included months of education in art, culture, and diplomatic protocol. She learned to move and speak like someone who had spent her career in academic and cultural institutions rather than military service. The transformation was so complete that even her task force shadow colleagues had difficulty recognizing her in character. The infiltration phase began when Elena Vasquez arrived in the target country as part of a legitimate cultural exchange program. Her mission was to establish herself within the diplomatic community while identifying opportunities to access Rahman's compound during social events or official functions. Maria spent 6 weeks building relationships within the diplomatic community, attending cultural events, and establishing her credentials as a respected expert in international art preservation. Her cover identity provided natural opportunities to interact with personnel from various diplomatic missions, including Rahman's compound. The breakthrough came when Rahman's compound announced plans to host a cultural exhibition featuring artifacts from various member nations. Elena Vasquez's expertise in cultural preservation made her an obvious candidate to assist with the exhibition's planning and security arrangements for the valuable artifacts. Working on the exhibition gave Maria legitimate access to Rahman's compound during the preparation phase. She was able to study the facility's security measures, map internal layouts, and identify potential approaches for the primary mission. The preparation work provided cover for detailed reconnaissance that would have been impossible to conduct through external observation. Rahman's security arrangements were sophisticated, reflecting his awareness that his terrorist activities had made him a target for various intelligence services. The compound featured multiple layers of protection, from electronic surveillance systems to armed guards trained in counterterrorism techniques. Maria identified several potential opportunities for completing the mission during the exhibition's opening ceremony. The social nature of the event would provide natural explanations for Elena Vasquez's presence throughout the compound, while creating enough activity to mask the execution of the primary objective. The final planning phase required coordination with support elements that would provide emergency extraction capabilities if the mission encountered unexpected complications. Task Force Shadow had positioned assets throughout the region to assist with various contingency scenarios while maintaining complete deniability about American involvement. On the evening of the exhibition's opening ceremony, Maria arrived at Ramon's compound as Elena Vasquez, wearing formal attire appropriate for diplomatic social events. Her appearance and demeanor matched perfectly with the cultural attaché identity she had spent months developing and refining. The exhibition attracted representatives from dozens of diplomatic missions, creating exactly the type of crowded social environment that provided optimal cover for the mission's execution. Maria moved through the reception with the confidence of someone completely comfortable in diplomatic society. Ramon appeared early in the evening to welcome guests and make remarks about the cultural significance of the exhibition. His security detail maintained their usual protective positions while trying to remain unobtrusive during the social event. Maria observed their procedures while engaging in conversations about the artifacts on display. The opportunity Maria had planned for came during Ramon's private tour of the exhibition for VIP guests. As Elena Vasquez, she had been invited to provide expert commentary on several pieces, giving her legitimate reasons to be in close proximity to the target during a period when his security detail will be focused on managing the crowd rather than protecting against infiltration. The elimination was executed with the precision that had made Maria legendary within Task Force Shadow. Ramon appeared to suffer a heart attack during the exhibition, and Elena Vasquez was among the cultural experts who attempted to provide medical assistance while waiting for emergency personnel to arrive. The medical emergency created exactly the type of confusion Maria needed to complete her extraction from the compound. Elena Vasquez left with other guests after giving statements to local authorities about the tragic medical emergency that had ended the evening's cultural celebration. When the general requested her call sign, she answered Phantom. Silence followed 5 years after the Ramon operation. Maria had become something of a legend within the classified world of special operations. Her success rate on impossible missions was perfect, and her ability to complete objectives without leaving traces had earned her a reputation that reached the highest levels of military and intelligence leadership. The summons to appear before General Harrison Caldwell came on a morning when Maria was conducting routine training exercises at the Task Force Shadow facility. Such personal meetings with the general were rare and usually indicated either exceptional recognition or assignment to missions with strategic importance beyond normal operations. Maria had worked directly for General Caldwell during several previous operations, but those interactions had taken place during mission briefings with multiple personnel present. A private meeting suggested something significant was developing that required her specific capabilities and experience. The general's office was located in the most secure section of the Pentagon, requiring multiple security clearances and escort procedures that emphasized the sensitive nature of whatever would be discussed. Maria had been in similar facilities before, but the extra security measures suggested this meeting involved information classified beyond even her usual access levels. General Caldwell's office reflected his decades of military service, with commendations and photographs documenting a career spent in some of the most challenging assignments the military had to offer. However, Maria noticed that most of the visible decorations came from his conventional military service rather than his current role overseeing special operations. Staff Sergeant Santos, please have a seat. General Caldwell indicated a chair positioned directly across from his desk. What we're about to discuss is classified beyond your current access level, which means even acknowledging this conversation took place could result in serious consequences for both of us. Maria had grown accustomed to operating with information that officially didn't exist, but the general's warning suggested they were entering territory that was sensitive even by Task Force Shadow standards. She remained silent while General Caldwell activated additional security measures that would prevent any electronic surveillance of their conversation. Your service record with Task Force Shadow has been exemplary, General Caldwell began, opening a file that was thicker than Maria had expected. 17 successful operations with perfect mission completion rates, and 0 security breaches. Your capabilities have exceeded every assessment we've conducted since your initial selection. The general paused to review several documents before continuing. However, your success has created a situation that requires careful consideration. Your reputation within the intelligence community has reached levels that pose both opportunities and risks for future operations. Maria understood that exceptional performance in the classified world could become problematic when it attracted too much attention from people who asked uncomfortable questions. Success that seemed impossible often generated scrutiny that could compromise the secrecy required for special operations. We've received requests for your services from intelligence agencies and allied nations that represent opportunities to advance American interests at the highest strategic levels, General Caldwell explained. However, these assignments would require modifications to your current operational status that go beyond anything we've previously discussed. The general opened another file and placed several documents on the desk between them. Maria could see that they contained official seals and signatures from authority levels she hadn't known existed. Whatever was being proposed clearly had support from the highest levels of government. The President has personally approved a new classification of special operations personnel for individuals with your unique capabilities, General Caldwell continued. This designation would provide you with authority and resources that extend beyond normal military command structures, but it would also require commitments that exceed standard military service. Maria realized she was being offered something unprecedented in her experience. The documents on the desk appeared to authorize operational independence that was normally reserved for senior intelligence officials with decades of experience and proven loyalty at the highest levels. Before you review the specific details, I need to ask you directly about your call sign, General Caldwell said, his tone becoming more serious. Your colleagues in Task Force Shadow have always referred to you as Ghost, but intelligence reports from some of your operations mention a different designation that you've apparently never officially acknowledged. Maria had been careful to avoid using any specific call sign during her operations, preferring to maintain anonymity that couldn't be tracked across multiple missions. However, she understood that some aspects of her operational history might have been pieced together by intelligence analysts reviewing her activities. During your most sensitive operations, witnesses and intelligence sources have reported encounters with someone they describe as Phantom, General Caldwell continued. This designation has appeared in classified reports from locations and time frames that correspond exactly with your mission assignments, but you've never formally adopted this call sign. The general's question forced Maria to confront something she had been avoiding for years. Her evolution from the ghost of her early military service to something approaching a living phantom had been gradual, but undeniable. Her capabilities had developed beyond what could be explained by training and natural talent alone. Sir, I have operated under various unofficial designations depending on mission requirements, Maria responded carefully. The Phantom reference may have emerged from operational necessity rather than any official assignment or personal preference. General Caldwell studied her response for several moments before continuing. The intelligence community has been tracking the activities of this Phantom operative for the past 3 years. The pattern of operations attributed to this individual represents capabilities that we didn't think were possible for any human operator to achieve. Maria realized that her success in remaining invisible during operations had created the impression that multiple missions were being conducted by the same individual with almost supernatural abilities. The intelligence community's attempt to identify this mysterious operative had been examining her own work without realizing they were tracking a single person. The operations attributed to Phantom include successful infiltrations of facilities that were considered impossible to breach, eliminations of targets that were believed to be beyond reach, and intelligence gathering from sources that should have been completely secure, General Caldwell explained. These achievements have generated intense interest from allied intelligence services and strategic planning departments. The general activated a secure display that showed a world map with dozens of marked locations. Each marker represented a classified operation where intelligence agencies had detected evidence of the mysterious Phantom operatives' activities. The scope was far beyond what Maria had realized was being tracked. The question we need to answer today is whether Staff Sergeant Maria Santos is prepared to officially become the operative that intelligence services around the world already believe exists, General Caldwell said. This would mean acknowledging capabilities and accepting responsibilities that go far beyond conventional military service. Maria studied the world map, displaying operations she had conducted over the past several years. Seeing them presented together made clear that she had become something unique in the intelligence community, an operative whose capabilities seemed to transcend normal human limitations. If you accept this new designation, you would be operating under the direct authority of a joint task force that includes representatives from the highest levels of military and intelligence leadership, General Caldwell explained. Your missions would have strategic importance that could affect international relations and global security. The offer represented everything Maria had worked towards since joining the military, but it also meant leaving behind any pretense of normal military service. She would be committing to a life spent entirely in the shadows, where success would never be publicly acknowledged, and failure could have consequences beyond personal survival. Sir, if I may ask directly, Maria said, you're requesting confirmation of a call sign that would officially acknowledge capabilities that have been developed through years of classified training and operations. Is that correct? General Caldwell nodded. The intelligence community needs to know whether Phantom represents a real asset that can be integrated into strategic planning, or whether these operations represent activities that cannot be officially recognized or supported. Maria understood that she was being asked to step fully into the role she had been unconsciously creating through her operational successes. The choice was between maintaining the deniability that had protected her career and accepting responsibility for capabilities that could serve national interests at the highest levels. The silence in the general's office stretched for several minutes while Maria considered the implications of what was being offered. Her entire military career had been building toward this moment, but accepting would mean crossing a line from which there would be no return to conventional service. Sir, Maria said finally, meeting General Caldwell's direct gaze, my call sign is Phantom. The silence that followed her statement seemed to carry the weight of recognition that something unprecedented had just been acknowledged. General Caldwell nodded slowly, understanding that he had just officially confirmed the existence of an operative whose capabilities would reshape how strategic operations were planned and executed.